signed an agreement to acquire Leeboy, which is for me very, very exciting news. There's like 2 mergers within the last 5 years that I've been excited about, and this is one of them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because Faya already owns 2 companies that make these same products.
Yeah.
And I will say that since I've only been in the industry for the last 3 years, one of the first things that I learned and was curious about was the fact that Bomag and Dynapack, had this parent umbrella over top of it.
Yeah.
And now that umbrella has gotten even bigger, and I wonder what the pros and cons, of this situation are going to be. What do you think?
Yeah, and I have to apologize because on our post initially, it also said Ham, right? And I'm like, oh, that's not where we're at. But the Fayat group does have a vast array of companies that are in the same ballpark, right? Last year with Leeboy, over the last couple of years, right? Even at Pavex, we watched them unveil a hot box. We watched compaction equipment come from Leeboy as well.
Yeah.
And of course, when we think of Dynapack, I primarily think of Dynapack's compaction equipment, but their material movers and their pavers are also big in the industry. And then it comes to Bomag, right? With Bomag, we think about these huge mills that they've put forth as their staple, along with all their great compaction equipment and whatnot as well. So it's really a unique thing. For me, it's always a kind of just a reality check when you see a company like Faya, who already has companies in this ballpark, acquire more companies that offer the same type of products, right? Because most of the time, especially with Leeboy, right? We watched Leeboy acquire Roscoe, was like, oh, sweepers go great with our pavers. Let's acquire a sweeping company. So it makes sense. And then you see this and you're like, this is literally just a big power play and a big power shift.
It is. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Faya in a very short, like media style interview during the last Con Expo. And I mean, Marvin, I was as green could be during that interview. And it was intimidating slightly. The man is a powerful figure. Obviously, he has built a massive conglomeration of not just asphalt industry, but the entire gamut of the construction industry world. And it's even larger, overseas in the European market. So it's interesting to see in the last 12 months, there have been 3 major acquisitions. And I posted about this morning on 4 Construction Pros and asphalt.com that these last 3 acquisitions by Faya were within the last 12 months. We had ADM, all drum mixers, got purchased, and then Mechalak, which makes like articulated dump trucks and other types of trucks, and then there's now the Leeboy acquisition. So they are certainly looking at the American economy and the American market as a growth sector for them. Like this, they've got their European side, but there's definitely some things that are influencing and pushing them to continue to expand over here. The question is, for you and other contractors, is how will this, if at all, impact and change what's available now that when you go to trade shows under a single banner, there will be, the Faya group always has like the very large banner. There will be Dynapack, Bomag, and Leeboy. So
well,
that's going to be an interesting thing.
I think here's the thing: if I go to a lot of the conferences and a lot of events, as do you. And we know for a fact that the personnel that make these companies up interact really well with the companies that were quote unquote the competition as well. Like there's always this thing of they're doing this, we're doing this, they're improving, we need to improve. And it's created this climate of, in my opinion, progression, right, on the manufacturer's side. So I think that when it comes to me as the contractor, there are aspects of each brand that I really, really enjoy. Uh, when it comes to, I was fortunate enough to been to Leeboy now a couple times, and they're in Lincolnton, and their customer resources. Like if I have a Leeboy and I have issues, that sector of what they do is amazing there. You still have that small hometown feel, right, where the Lee family
Yeah.
made this thing and gets it going. And then when I think about this, when you look at a snapshot of Leeboy, you're like, oh, they make pavers. And you look at Dynapack, like they make rollers and pavers. And you look at Bomag, they make rollers and asphalt equipment. But when you get down to it, Leeboy also has Roscoe, right, which is the sweeping side.
Yeah.
I don't see any sweeping stuff when I go to the Bomag side or I go to Dynapack
Right.
side. And then when you go to the material movement side, you see that a lot over on Dynapack side, and I don't see it so much on Leeboy side. So I think in my mind, it makes more sense when I think about it in that aspect of here are these companies that although they all make pavers, they also have small aspects that complement the other side really well. And you were talking about the articulation equipment and whatnot
Yeah.
that Fayat acquired.
Mechalac. Yeah.
Mechalac, yeah. What it does for me is,
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. It might be, it could be it never fails that I will say a name of a company. It took me years to pronounce Weiler correctly.
Yeah. What about Vogela, right?
Vogela,
Yeah.
right?
Good luck with that one.
I have to tell you that for 2 years, I kept saying Wheeler every time and it was not intentional. I couldn't get it out of my brain. So we're saying Mechalac, and we are praying that is
correct. Yeah. Well, the big thing for me is that when I look at the grand scheme, that means Faya has everything from Dynapack's tiny little plate compactor to Leeboy's street sweeper up to Dynapack's 85 series paver, or I mean Leeboy's 85 series pavers, and then we go to Bomag's mill machines, and then there's articulation equipment. So their hand is essentially starting at the littlest, tiniest part of the asphalt industry. Let's say we throw in 2 shovels full of cold mix asphalt, then we have compaction equipment to get onto it. You can use a Fayat piece of equipment overall. And then let's say that we're trying to mill and get it into a dump truck and move it on from here. You also could be using a Fayat piece of equipment. So really, it really is a smart move if they're looking to have a footprint everywhere. Yeah, all the way down. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take a step back and try to look at a bird's eye view here. From a business perspective, we understand the value for them, like you've laid out here. How how it benefits them and expands their footprint in the United States. But from the bird's eye view, we back up and we look. It's hard not to want to use the word monopoly. We don't use that word lightly here. But I mean, it's definitely maybe the best word to use is a consolidation, right? It is a blanket that they now have a large sector of the industry. If we take their 3 companies that now make up Faya's paving, asphalt, commercial, road building arm, they have Leeboy. They have Dynapack and they have Bomag.
Yeah.
Who are the now the remaining competitors in this space? You have Aztec.
Correct.
Weiler, not Wheeler. You have Blanox. Mall is Malden. Malden. I was saying Malden.
Yep.
And Vogela. So those are like those are probably the biggest names I can think of. I'm probably forgetting somebody off the top of my head that makes.
No, you're close.
Oh my God, Caterpillar. Are we kidding ourselves? Yes, 6.
Yep.
So that means there are 6 big players remaining. That means 1/3 of the paving space is now a Faya umbrella company.
Well, when we think about it like that, though, it's not very dissimilar, right? As I mentioned, I made on our post, we had the mistake of Hom being included in that realm, but Hom is actually with Weiler.
With work, yeah, no,
I mean,
Hom
I'm sorry, with Workin, right? So
and Workin is owned by John Deere.
correct. So
Right.
here we have these collaborative parts as well, right? And then we Volvo, right? I did a piece on Volvo rollers. So here we have another sector that's in another tiny part. So I think when you look at the large picture, it's not necessarily 1/3 controlled by Hom and there's all these other ones. It's here are some other ones. And when we talk about Malden, Calder Brothers and Malden came together at one point, right? So
Yeah.
you can talk to the Calders when you're at the Malden booth at Pavex, right? So it's really unique to see like this is kind of the formulation and where it goes. I think what is so telling about this one is Leeboy, right? I mean, when you think asphalt, one of the biggest brands you think of and primarily longest brands ever is Leeboy. So it's weird for me to feel that because it doesn't feel like a Fayat brand, right? For us as the contractors, it's been our brand, right, for a while. And I think that's what's so appealing about it. One of the other high notes that I would feel dismissed if we didn't talk about is the personnel. So the family of people that are at Dynapack and have been, and then the family of people that have been at Leeboy and working there, the way that they interact with us as the community is really similar. We can reach out to anybody on any member of those teams. I seen Hutch over on Leeboy last night posted that he's got the Northeast region of the United States. I'm like,
right,
stellar dude. Immediately, likes my comment and was like, hey, we're able to interact. And if I was curious about this at all, I'm sure I could call Brian or Christy and at Leeboy and they'd be like, hey, this is what's up. It's a really, as much as the brand equipment is important during something like this, I think the personnel and the way that they interact with the personnel and the other brands is going to be ultimately important as well. And they're really similar. Fayat has done a great job. Oh, Brian Beeler and his team at
well, Brian came from Leeboy. Remember, right as I came into the industry, that transition happened. Like it was one of the first things that I remember learning that there was this transition. And it's interesting. You have to imagine, now I'm speculating wildly here, but you have to imagine that Brian might have been at least consulted maybe in a conversation. I mean, again, speculating wildly. No, I have nothing to go on there, but as being that he was a part of Leeboy for a long time, I imagine that, maybe on some level he could, speak to that and their value as a company. But I think you made a really interesting point about the people. Now, I have, just like you, I have some sources on the inside of Leeboy. And while they will remain anonymous, the one thing that seems to be coming out mostly from internal camp today is like things are going to stay the same. Now, we hear this a lot in American M&As, right? Mergers and acquisitions. One of the first things that always comes out is things are going to stay the same. Nothing's going to change. People are going to still get the same product and services. We always hear that, right? Now, sometimes in some industries and some sectors, that doesn't always pan out to be the case that things stay the same. But I have reason to believe that Fayat means what they say because we can look at some of their other acquisitions in the space, including Dynapack, which is much longer in history, but the ADM acquisition. They're up in, to this point, the biggest change has been that ADM, as an American company, has an access to greater resources, that they are experiencing, an influx of engineering expertise, some capital, I'm sure, and other things that they maybe didn't have at their disposal. Now, if we look at the previous owners of Leeboy, ST Engineering, they didn't have any other, outside of Leeboy, they didn't have any other expertise or experience in this industry.
Correct.
They were an ownership, like they owned it, but like that side of their business, I don't see that they had any experience within this sector. That's where Fayat is massively different, right?
Correct.
They, as a company, have decades of experience in this sector, obviously like in a different part of the world, but also the Bomag and Dynapack experience. And they're going to bring that to Leeboy. Just having the knowledge, like Leeboy doesn't have to fight to explain what the asphalt industry is, right? They already know. But that's the thing. If you got bought by a company that didn't have that experience, I mean, you would have to constantly be trying to explain how the industry works and what the industry does.
Yeah, the idea that, you know, I seen somebody commented on the live feed here, like something will change and it'll be in time. It's like, yes, but everything changes in time, right? Like the way that you and I are communicating now is far different than it was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it is going to change, and of course there's other influences, but that happens whether you have a change up in the executive level management positions and whatnot. I mean, as an example, using a file as an example, Jamie Roush leading Dynapack for the last amount of time that he did, completely changed the way that that brand was looked at in our industry, right? And I would argue that it's arguably for the much betterment, not only of that brand, but of our industry as well. And I think that that's going to be no different with Leeboy. I believe some things will change, but as you just alluded to, the change is likely to be in a positive direction because of Fayat's experience, their resources, the capital that Leeboy may have arguably had to argue for to get put in different areas may just be
speculating wildly, but yes,
right. I mean, it may be a no-brainer, right? To Fayat, be like, that's a no-brainer. Let's do it. So it's very interesting. You know, I can't remember where we flew into. Maybe you've seen it, you know, Brandon, when we flew in somewhere. But I remember seeing an ST logo on a hangar, right, with the aeronautical side. Maybe we were in Vegas. Maybe it was Vegas, and I just was like, was it awesome? Was it awesomely cool to think that the people that are creating flying machines also own the Leeboy brand as well? Yes. Do I know that it was for the betterment of it? I don't know, but I do know. I do know that if I get around a bunch of guys that install asphalt and that's all they do, and they talk about how to do it better, chances are my installation expertise is going to move up a little bit. And I just have a feeling that that's what's going to happen here at Leeboy. It's really neat because I love the engineers at Leeboy. Some of those conversations I've had with those guys are absolutely fantastic. And then for them to be able to be in communication with Fayat's larger, directly in communication with Fayat's larger resources in that field gets me excited. It just does. I'm all about the advancement of products in our industry and the way it's been moving and moving forward. We see that with lasers on our pavers now. We see that with GPS systems and AI
hold on. Stop the presses. Over on our Instagram live feed, your name dropped. Jamie Roush has joined the live stream. He is he's in the chat. I also want to address two things, and there's a little bit of a delay, but a salesperson for a dealership group commented on the live stream that as a dealer rep, there is an expectation of more capital being invested into Leeboy. Now, that's from RW South Salesman. So we have no way of verifying that, obviously, but somebody has jumped into the chat, seemingly from the dealership side, saying that there's that expectation. Jamie's laughing because we called him out, but this is big news, and we wanted to be at the forefront of what was being talked about. I'd love to get some reactions from people listening, what you think about this change. If you're a Leeboy, you currently own a Leeboy or can you operating, how do you feel about this? What are you thinking about this? Positives, and potential drawbacks. We want to hear the gamut of it. We're going to be on for maybe another 9 minutes here before we jump off, but it's definitely something that's going to have repercussions in the industry. That, without a doubt, this, like you said, there will be some changes, right?
Yeah.
And
what I'm excited about is the guys that were like, Bomag till I die, Leeboy take a hike, and now we got both of them underneath one umbrella. I always find it interesting that it's like the guys that like Chevy and like Dodge and Ford, and then all of a sudden, if one of them went under one of the other major brands, how they would feel about that. But I've been fortunate enough, like I said, as you have as well, for us to be around these companies and the people that run them a lot, to know that they are all wanting things to get improved and better and create a better experience for the customer and the contractor on the back end, which, as a contractor, this has me excited. Like it's cool for us to be able to see.
Yeah, I think it is exciting. It's such exciting news that I had to get a trial subscription to StreamYard so that we could jump on here and talk about it. But I think it would be cool, Marvin, if you and I set a weekly appointment maybe and get on here and have a little roundup of the week's news and talk about things. This has been fun to jump on something so immediate, and really talk about the repercussions.
Yeah. I think we need more of that. It's really cool to be able to be in touch with everybody and kind of see these things as they unfold, as it happens within our industry, because there's a lot of times where we'll show up to events, whatnot, and not realize that a merger like this even happened until you get to an expo. You're like, oh, they own them now. Well, no wonder I couldn't talk to so-and-so over here anymore, or however it worked out. So it's really cool. It's exciting times. We see a lot of times, personnel changes and whatnot at these brands and these larger manufacturers and suppliers. But to see something like this is really reminiscent of the early Blacktop banner years, when the rumblings of a Gem Seal being bought out by Sealmaster thing happened, right? And we were like, whoa, like this is big.
I wasn't here for that, so I don't.
Yeah,
I wasn't in the industry.
Yeah,
at that time.
For me, that was like, whoa, because those were the two big ones. This is really reminiscent of that for me, and I think if you talk to anybody on personnel from either one of those brands when that happened, it's been nothing but good things. And I think more than likely that's what we're going to see here too. It's really exciting because when you think about these brands in two different aspects, well, I got to say a third brand there with Dynapack. To me, when I picture them in my mind, right, and that's what as marketing, that's what you're hoping to do, is create a brand in your mind that when it comes to the first of thought, this is what you think. I see what our friend Matt Stanley has done. It's gritty, gothic for the contractor, right angle edges, laying it down, putting it down. And then you see the other brands. Dynapack is, for me anyways, I think of finesse. I think about it being done with artistry. And when it comes to Bomag, I think we're going to get it done. Like the job's bigger, the better. You have the best stuff sitting out here. Let's mash it in and get it done.
Well, and they're milling, Bomag, that's, one of the things they bring, obviously, like you were talking about, Leeboy has certain aspects with the brooms and stuff, like the maintenance side, right? Leeboy, over the last year, going back to Pavex, where am I at? Can't see reverse. Going back to Pavex #1 in San Antonio, they showed up with the hot box, and they were kind of making a statement like Leeboy is going to be expanding into the maintenance arm of the industry in a greater way, not just making the pavers, but giving some other things. And on like the Bomag side, like you talked about, they have the massive milling machines that are unique to their silo of the brand. And Dynapack, if I'm thinking about what they have that's unique to their silo of the brand, there are two things that jump to my mind. They have the material transfer vehicles that are unique to their silo, and also kind of lesser known, they have the spray tack pavers, which I'm not sure if those have made their way to the States yet. I know that it was mostly in Europe at first, but they also have they have these high density asphalt pavers. And they are one of only two companies, along with Vogela, in the US that have high density pavers. Now that's mostly used in the road building side, including they'll do like roller compacted concrete with it. But those are specialized machines, right? Those are unique and specialized. So I think a lot of times when people see Fayat having these multiple companies, they're like, well, they all make the same thing. That's not true. They're not making the same things. You visited the Leeboy factory. I visited the Leeboy factory. What they're making there is unique to them. They work on the designs themselves. I saw some of the Lee family when I visited,
Mm-hmm.
tour, they were currently like the Lee family was out there with gloves on, and they were working on the frame of a new paver, trying to like problem solve and troubleshoot some different things about the framing. So it's like they are all distinct and unique things. And when Jamie Roush was the president, I once a long time ago put him on the spot in a video.
Good.
And I did, and I asked him, I said, why have all these companies under this one roof? Why, what's the purpose of that? And I kind of was poking at him, and I really didn't realize I was putting him in such a bind when I did, because I was so new. But his answer was good then, and it's still good now, even though he's moved on to a new industry, is that there is a brand, I don't want to call it a following, but there's a loyalty to each of these brands. And you kind of touched on this, like people who are loyal to Bomag, that's what they are. They like Dynapacks for their machines. Like there's a huge following for Dynapack rollers. That's something that people are passionate about. They've been, using those for their whole careers. And Leeboy, obviously, you mentioned the Stanley family. I'd love if they were not working today and they could, you had a rain day. So I got lucky, but I wish they had a rain day and could jump on here and really give us the how they feel and what their reaction is. That you might have to call them afterwards and find out.
I'll see if I can get Matt on here. The biggest thing, right, is that as much as we talk about the positives of these companies, which I'm optimistic and positive oriented anyway. So whenever I see anything negative, I'm like, well, this is just a problem to solve. And most of the time, these companies will take care of all those things. But you do have some people that look down upon certain brands or different things or whatever. And I would imagine if there's anybody who has any shade to throw at Leeboy about saying whether they lack here or lack there or wherever, it's going to be really hard to believe that those are things that are overlooked or that they don't have the capability of taking care of now with Fayat, right? So it's an exciting thing. It really, to me, it's really going to boost the brand no matter what, right? So
I agree. Today, as of June 25th, my feeling about it as a member of the media and following the industry, writing about it, I feel like this is an overall net positive.
For sure.
For Leeboy, I think that those who are loyal to Leeboy and that customer base, I think they're only going to see benefits from it.
Yeah.
I think that over time, we'll revisit this, right? And we'll have to see further, like what changes and what things happen as it plays out. We can't know the future. But I think that, as of today, it's exciting. And I think that it's going to be an overall net positive. With that, I think we should draw this live to a close. It was awesome, Marvin, to come on. I think we should maybe plan on doing some of this again. You got anything you want to plug real quick, and then we'll jet.
Not really, man. I'm just excited. Like we talk about, we're going to revisit this in a little bit. I imagine it's going to be at PAVEX. We'll start to see some of the stuff trickle in of what changes could be if they are going to happen. And then, of course, I'm sure you're going to join me again in Vegas this year for ConExpo.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to see it in a larger scale there, as these companies will be there too. So really cool. I just appreciate everybody following along what we do, both at Pavement Mag and at In the Mix, and what we do over here as well. And the support, I'm sure you agree with this, the support for what we do helps keep us going and doing stuff like this.
Yeah, man. Also, just want to let everybody know that the Pavement Awards for 2026 are open. So if you've got some gnarly, awesome projects that you've already done this season, some early projects, make sure to go to asphalt.com, look up our awards, and apply some, it's totally free. I want to make sure that everyone in the back can hear that. It's 100% free to send us an application for one of your projects to win some industry recognition.
As far as I know, Brandon, I don't think I've ever paid for anything that I've submitted anywhere, whether it was a survey or whether it
No.
was for an award, right? So,
No,
you know,
let's
I
not
would.
get too far into that. Let's let that lie right now.
I think you know, if you pay close enough attention and you decide to take part in it, it will be very clear for you to understand how all these things
right.
work. So once
Yeah,
again, we really appreciate you putting that on.
yeah,
For me, I'm excited. The In the Mix podcast drops next month, and we're really excited about those conversations that we're having with contractors across the country. So very, very thankful for the support for getting that thing off the ground and going again by you and by everybody else, and our partners in that as well. Very exciting times coming within the next 6 months.
Very exciting. And you can always check out the No Edge Lines series on this Instagram channel and on our YouTube page. You can see all those videos. And make sure to just comment your reactions below. We'd love to see those and follow up on them next time we talk. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Marvin.
Yep.